right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is RJ in Sugar Trade Made Easy, the last episode. I'm the managing director for CapFiX and the founding chairman for Asia Africa Chamber of Commerce. Okay. Next. Okay. Okay. This is the 30 minutes power live where I started doing 3 episodes before. My purpose is to focus on the biggest pain in this business, in the sugar business. And the first series talking about the why sugar deal fails. Second one is getting your sugar daddy, which is supplier. Number three is the bank or break, right? This is where the instrument being sent to. And today we focus on the buyer side. If you look at this four title, and these are the I would say the biggest pain, the pillars of pains in sugar trading. If you analyze them carefully, it's all responsibly rely on the buyer side. This is why the ratio of failure, sugar's transaction failure, a lot of them are because of the buyer side, not really the supplier side. But you may also argue that because the transaction is not able to pursue further to the delivery side, therefore you see more failure on the buyer side. Okay, next. A little bit about my background. I have 25 years in the corporate C level, which is the top management level. I participated in the management buyout, means we buy the share over the company, and later I sold my share and become the entrepreneur. And today I have a 30 years of experience in the fast-moving consumer goods FMCG industry, where sugar is part of the FMCG over 25 countries. On CapFiX, who is CapFiX? There are two verticals in CapFiX. One is agri commodities, where we talk about the sugar side. No, we help we facilitate the sales and purchases of sugar. So in our platform, we have a supplier and also the buyers. We have another vertical called CapFiX Energy, where uh we're marketing now this EN590 and ethanol. And then we have three sub-pillars. CapFix FinTrade, where we assist our buyer to issue SPLC and DLC. And we have Trade Talk, where we have a pool of speakers to speak in conferences where there's a need. And also we participate also in the commodity AI, where we offer AI solution to the commodity players. CapFiX corporate flower. I mean, some of the company, I think most of the company do not have corporate flower, but in CapFiX we have one, and it's sunflower. And this is exactly the spirit that we want to have, right? That we never say die. Even at the darkest moment, we still stay positive and move forward. Okay, you see, when I start this series, I already have in my mind and already fixed in my mind that sugar is the one commodity for us to focus on. In the commodity business, there are soft and hard commodities. For CapFix, we identify the soft commodity as our core product. And among all the soft commodities, sugar will be the one that we focus on. Why? Because sugar commodities is the one that can give us daily inquiries. Almost every day, you will receive inquiries. And the minimum order that you can get is 12,500 metric tons. This is the smallest vessel. And one order, you will sign for 12 months. So what it means that as an intermediary, if you just get only $1 commission, you will receive $12,000 a month of income over the next 12 months. So this makes it sugar a very attractive commodity to focus on. And this is exactly why I want to spend my time to share my knowledge and experience with you. This episode and the last episode, I focus on the buyer side. If you still recall, the first episode, I'm talking about what are the common failures in the sugar industry. Second episode, I talk about the difficulty in getting the suppliers. I just the immediate last, I talk about the bank, who is the ultimate determinant of whether a deal can proceed. Today, I'm talking about the buyer side. How do we know whether if you're talking the real buyer or just a liar? Liar probably a very strong word to use, but in our business, we need to see black and white. Are you a buyer or not? Okay, I ran the 3-day poll in my LinkedIn page, and this is the result. I asked one questions. What's the number one red flag shows a buyer is not serious? And more than half of the respondents say the buyer refuses to follow procedures, right? This is very common. In fact, in over the last 3 episodes, we've been hearing this a lot. The buyer, because they think they're the paymaster and they thought they would dictate the procedures and the process of conducting the business. This may be true in other trade, but in commodity business, we need to educate our buyer. This is not where you exercise your dominance, right? It is a seller that prevail in this commodity business, right? If you refuse to follow procedures, very highly that the deal cannot proceed, right? The second one, we had a joint number 2 and 3, both at 18%, right? When we ask the intermediary or the buyer to name what's the issuing bank for issuing the instruments. If they cannot name it, most likely they are not serious. They most likely just fishing for prices, right? Or they just keep talking but never issuing the instrument, even after signing the SPA. For many reasons, maybe they do not have the ability to issue the instrument in the first place. And some of them just want to have your SPA to do their other objective, maybe to get financing from somewhere else. And number four, 11% will be the delay in signing FCO and SPA. My team is now experiencing this at the moment, right? The initial few steps gone very smoothly, then we stuck, right? At the SPA level and some at the FCO level, they never sign. And they're giving a lot of reason, right? They're waiting for the permit to import the products, right? Now some waiting for the quota to import into China. But this shows that they are not serious. They should have known this problem right before they come to us. The fact that they're not coming in, they still proceed with us means they are taking chances. So I would say they are being irresponsible and taking up and wasting our time. So we need to look for this red flag. Next. Okay, what's the one question that will fill us almost 90% of time wasters, right? And this is what I mentioned just now. This one question we should ask. Most of the time, when we first started the business, we never asked this question. We just wanted to see the LOI. That's it. When they see LOI, it means we had a chance to close a deal, and we even had a chance to get a commission. But this one question that is all of us should ask in the very, very moment before we even receive the LOI. We should ask them, which bank will you use to issue the instrument? And what type of payment method can you do? We should ask this question right front. If they mention about non-rated bank, which I already explained in my the third episode, you should walk away politely, decline politely, because even you receive and accept the non-rated bank and instrument from them, you can never complete the process of the DD later on with the seller and the seller's receiving bank. It's just wasting your time, right? It is just walk away. I know it's painful to walk away because it's the right piece of paper in front of us as a potential income, but we just had to recognize it. And the other thing is the payment method. Some buyer just give it a method which you cannot accept. Then in this case, you just have to walk away. But smile, keep the door open. Real buyer have the bank ready, and time waster give you all the excuses. So we talk about just imagine one question and sub question, you eliminate 90% of your uh these are bias or the wasters. What's the remaining 10% to screen your bias, whether they are real or not real. See, procedures is your filter, right? I notice a lot of intermediaries, including my team, right? They do not study the procedure from the seller. What they do is that they just directly forward the procedure to the potential buyer, which is one big reason why a deal is failed because they do not explain well to the buyer, right? But if you do explain well to the buyer, you can actually use it as a filter to filter away a lot of buyer will not be able to complete the process. This line is very important. If the buyer refuses to follow your procedures, they are not your buyer. So you do not need to spend too much time with them because you are against the wall when you bring them forward, receive their LI, you can never complete the SPA because in between they'll involve a lot of arguments, a lot of debate, which is just time wasting for you. Okay. Besides the bank, beside the buyer side, the problem, there are still some signs, early signs that you can see within your own team, right? So this is why sometimes it's not the buyer problem, it's your team mistake. So watch out for this sign, right? This is my honest suggestion to you. Look at your team members, right? Do they delay? Do they delay your responses? When you ask question, do they take time? Right? 1 day, 2 days. Oh, sorry, this weekend, come back to you. Oh, I do work at night. These are those are the bad excuses and delay responses. Then this is definitely early sign for failure. Lacking focus. When your team member have too many commodities to worry about, this is also will diminish your chances of success because they simply cannot focus the detail and they may give you the wrong advice if they are your mandate, right? And poor follow-up, right? This one is that everybody assume that once you for example, send over the SPA, you expect the buyer to understand, or after you dispatch the FCO, you expect the buyer to understand, right? This are attitude give you early sign of failure, but you need to be careful. Okay, this on some tips, right? How do you also be able to filter out some non-serious buyer or non-serious intermediaries, which is you call it your teammates. Many of time when you go into Zoom, I notice quite a lot actually, a lot of intermediaries or the buyer refuse to on their camera. When you have this sort of situation, to me, I will just walk away because I can see there's no sincerity or there's something to hide, especially in the part of seller or the buyer. This applies to seller as well when they refuse to on the camera. I suggest you on the camera all time so that you can also demand your counterpart to do the same. What you want to do is you want to see them in your eyes, see their body language, right? And assess yourself. Are these people trustworthy? Right? Are these people that you can work to do the business together? If not, right? If not, then you should be able to walk away. And the other thing is mediation and negotiation. In this commodity business, mediation is more important than negotiation. Negotiation is like taking side, right? Your side and my side. Mediation is you try to understand both sides' issues and a concern and find a bridge to bridge together. If you are the intermediary, you should master the technique of mediation. And to do this one, the first thing is you must have good EQ. You yourself must be patient enough, right, to mediate this two side which confronting, especially when the buyer is very demanding, right? That they demand the seller to follow their procedures, where the seller will refuse because I prevail. Why should I follow your procedures? And please take note that the seller can easily walk away. It doesn't care. They don't really care when the buyer comes from a big company. They don't care because they have too many options of a buyer in the market. And for yourself, to manage your anxiety, because sometimes, because we really wanted to close a deal, we will develop the anxiety because we follow this buyer, but it doesn't respond. Or we follow halfway through with the intermediaries, that guy disappeared, right? So I think we need to set our own internal timeline, right? When you see there's lack of responses from either the buyer or the intermediaries, you need to know when to walk away and work on something else. My recommendation to all the intermediaries is that you should work on 3 orders concurrently. Unfortunately, not all the sales mandate will allow you to do that. They will ask you to do one by one. But when it comes to CapFiX, because CapFiX bridge buyer and seller, so we do have sellers and we work with our global partners who do the marketing, right? We always encourage them to work on 3 orders concurrently so that when one or two buyers or intermediary do not respond, you still have one more to work on. So it reduces your anxiety. It gives you more control over the situation. You're not become too desperate and therefore increase your blood pressure that you cannot think carefully to moving forward. Okay. Okay, I want to close this session fairly fast so that this is the last episode. I want to give you more time to ask questions if there's any. Before I go to a Q&A session, I'd like to mention about this mentorship. I do mentorship for 2 reasons. Number one, I found the gap in the trade where I can give you a formula for you to capitalize it and earn your passive income, right? And generate the financial freedom. And I honestly believe that it can be done. Number two, during the process, I'm looking for outstanding partners to become our CapFiX global partners. Today, we have 21 of them across 16 countries, and I want them more. Okay, this one, I fully appreciated some of the intermediary friends, they are struggling with finances, yep, because they couldn't close sales for a prolonged time. Therefore, I offer a group mentorship with a minimum of $280. That's it for 2 sessions. At least in these 2 sessions, I'll give you a roadmap, and a strategy plan of how you can do the market priority, how to remove the time waster, and some early signs to look up to so that you will increase your chances of success. It could be quite shallow, but at least you have the plan to work on it. So for those who would like to invest more time, have a one-on-one session with me, right? That will be $880 per month for 2 months. My standard fee is 2,500 for these 3 days. It'll be only $880. Here, the most important thing is I work with you concurrently on the real deals. We work together, we discuss, right? And all the questions you have, we talk about it, and you'll be supported by daily by our CapFiX team and also myself. Right? Most importantly, upon completion of this one-on-one mentorship, I would like to invite you to join our group as a CapFiX Global Partners because by then we should have a similar mindset and you should know our system. That will be an excellent partner to work together. Okay, before we go on to fight the world, right? Look for the buyer. This is my honest advice. Always look for the side of a scammer. In this industry, they're full of scammers. If you use LinkedIn to communicate, to look for supplier and customers, right? You really need to be careful. There are too many scammers. CapFiX used to be a victim to some scammers. We lost money, we lost time. So you really need to be careful on this. Okay, so for those of you who would like to know more about CapFiX, you can go to our website, catfixasia.com, or follow me on the LinkedIn. Every night, 12 midnight Malaysia time, I will publish a post uh, on something that I learned of the day about the sugar business or the commodity business. I do it every day, right? Without fail. Rain or shine or holiday, you will still see my post, right? This is for sharing purposes. I really encourage you to come to my page and pick up something which I honestly believe that there's some benefits to your dealing in the industry. Okay, I will stop here. And if you have any question, I am happy to answer.
All right, we are down to 6 more minutes for this session.
Okay.
So
Mhm.
far, we've only had one question coming from Rajat. So
Yep.
his question is, after the SPA stage, yes, the buyer stops responding, as you mentioned earlier. So his
Mm.
question is, where should we find real buyers then?
This is $1 million question, right? You see, we do have real buyers on was it in the queue. But some of the newer buyers, they're actually rejecting the procedures. Right? In fact, how to find a real buyers? Is if when you find a real buyers, you should always ask for the CIS. You need, before you proceed further, you should ask for CIS from the buyer. You need to know who the buyer, the background. Right? Also, you can also gauge whether this is a real buyer or not through the intermediary who brought you the order, the buyer, right? You can also ask them about their background. Do they know the buyer or not? Then through the stage of explaining the procedures, you will roughly gauge whether this buyer or not. You see, I believe that some buyers are real, but it's just that they cannot accept the procedures of the seller. Maybe because of the ego, maybe because of the internal procedure wise. We do have some Chinese buyer. These are coming from the S the big local company. Uh, I asked them why can't they accommodate the procedure for the seller. They said, RJ, if there's any mistake made during the process, their head will roll. So this is where they need to be careful. So I mean, to answer your question about how to find a real buyer, I think you just need to keep finding. And this is why I mentioned where you're looking for the real buyer, work on multiple order together, right? During the process, you can actually learn from each other. You can see how the buyer behaving, right? Then you can roughly gauge, or just like just now I mentioned, invite the buyer come to the Zoom, see whether or not they willing to come in the first place. Or when they come, do they on the camera for you to see their eyes? So these are the small things to evaluate whether the buyer is real or not. And the other thing is ask them the first question, which bank do you use? If they cannot answer this simple question, you know this is not a real one. This is so simple to answer. If they are a real buyer, they will know what bank they're going to use. So these are some small tips that you can use in combination that to evaluate whether the buyer is real. And the other thing is to evaluate whether the real buyer had the capability to buy. That is where we need to quickly move the buyer to the stage of MT799. There's a time where we use the bank, right, to check if the buyer is real and financially capable to issue the instrument. This is why a lot of time I advise the seller that we do not need to waste too much time on the FCO, make it so complicated, right? The LI loan so complicated. Make it simple, move them quickly to the MT799 in order to see whether the buyer is able to issue the notification from the issuing bank to the seller's receiving bank. This is the best time and the most critical time to assess whether you have a real buyer or not. Mm.
Right, thank you very much, RJ.
Yep.
Wusu, I see that you have raised your hand. You may unmute and ask your question.
All right. Thank you so much, and good morning from this side, RJ. Thanks for
Hi.
sharing your deep insight.
Oh, good
Um,
morning.
Thank you. So,
Yeah.
just a quick question. I'm speaking from the African continent. I mean, that's
Yes.
where my focus is. On the continent, as you are aware, it's quite a challenge in terms of trade, finance instruments, issuance by buyers, right? So, you
Yes.
have a potential buyer. You've done all
Yes.
the ticks. Actually, you visited their company, and then you see they buy from all that. Some of them mostly will do spot deals where they buy from already importers who have commodities selling.
Yeah.
So that is number one. Now you establish a good contact with this buyer. You have all the
Yeah.
takes. The only challenge is that due to the nature of the environment and then the business environment, most
Yeah.
of them will tell you they won't issue instrument. They don't
Mm.
because they still get goods to buy without issuing any instrument.
Yeah.
Um, so, if you want to establish a long relationship with that buyer, he says, yes, this is our procedure, we'll buy, but most of the time, their wholesalers will only put
Mhm.
money for them when they see
Mm.
evidence of bill of lading that the
Mhm.
goods are coming. And
Yes.
then they block funds for them so that once goods arrive, then they pay. So most buyers in Africa,
Yes.
at least I've visited about 4 countries. I've
Yeah.
established contact with buyers who are
Yeah.
willing and be able to buy, but they only do payment at the port of destination. And I have witnessed some of them pay. I've been there. For instance, I was in one of the West African countries. I stayed there for 2 weeks when there was a ship loading coming,
Yes.
and the buyer had already sold the ship loading because he showed evidence to his wholesalers locally that he has
Yeah.
sugar of 12,005 coming, and someone would take 2,005 and someone would take 1,000 metric tons and things like that by now putting money for them. So that is the kind of environment that most African countries environment operates. In that
Yeah.
case, I mean, what do you suggest that that one can do to be able to unlock some of these challenges that we face on the continent? Because whilst suppliers in Brazil will want payment at port of loading, which probably you as a buyer, you may not have the financial capability to pay.
Yeah.
You issue instrument, but they may still want you to pay at port of loading and not port of
Yeah.
destination. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can decide that I will issue SBLC and then via MT760, and then you do payment MT103 when upon SGS clearance at port of destination. But I mean, and you
Mhm.
get a payment, but then it's a challenge. So what do you advise in such a circumstance? Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for question. You see, this is a very common challenge when you deal with a buyer from Africa, but not just Africa, also apply to other buyer in the other contingents, right? So most of buyer want to pay at destination ports. They want to pay at the loading ports. So you have immediately against the wall from the seller side. You see, most of the time, if as I mentioned in the last three episodes, we should always put ourselves in the shoes of the seller. Once we understand what they're going on in their side, you begin to understand why they demand for certain things. Why the seller want a payment and loading port? Because the risk of giving the stock arrive at the destination port and get money is too high, and the investment on this business is high. So they put pressure on the cash flow. So they wanted the money to be paid at the loading port. And they also want the instrument to protect their investment to buy because they need to pay cash to the Brazilian refineries. It's an all cash business. This is where you're aware that some of the buyer, the seller, when they receive the instrument, they always ask for transferable instrument, SPLC or DLC, because they want to monetize it into cash and pay the 30% upfront to the Brazilian millers. So, so we have a very unfortunate situation. The buyer in this case have no choice. They have to comply with the demand from the seller. So for us, if you want to mitigate this transaction, we need to educate our buyer, number one, or at the same time help them to create or issue the instrument that they can use to buy the sugar. Otherwise, you will need to find the sellers who can offer a more friendlier payment method. For example, some seller, by using their own financial, can accept block fund or bank guarantee. So some seller can do that, but most of the seller do not accept. So you need to find a way to get to the kind of seller who accept the preferred payment method from the buyer. So I mean the chances is quite slim, unfortunately, right? So in your case, in specific mention that you mentioned just now, the chances is the buyer you need to forego, unfortunately, unless you find the right seller can accommodate, or you help the buyer to find to get the instrument to issue to the seller. Because at the end of the day, sellers always prevail. This is what we always need to remember. Mm.
All right.
And this is why you mentioned that you
Right.
need to do multiple orders, at least 3 orders. You can get one collapse, you still have 2 more to work on other contingent, other continents. Mm.
All right. Thank you very much, RJ. We are currently
Yeah.
short on time, so we will have to close our session now. If any of you have any more questions, you may, of course, submit them in the comment section in RJ's next post, or just send it to our email or visit our website and send it to RJ directly as well. All right. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining. This session will be uploaded on YouTube for you to refer back, and we'll see you in the next session.
Okay. Bye-bye. Bye, everyone. See you. All the best.